Hello and welcome back to Transformation Tuesday. It's Chris Jackson, your host, with another amazing episode. Tonight's episode is how do we truly hack our thoughts? How do we use our thoughts to hack our reality? Thinking is one of the most fundamental elements that exist inside our consciousness. They're the most important element and sometimes the most overlooked element. So tonight I'm going to be unpacking thinking. How do we use our thinking to our advantage? How do we become more aware of our thoughts? And how do we use our thoughts to hack our reality at the deepest level of consciousness? This is a powerful topic. I'm excited to present this to you, and this is going to give you a deeper perspective on what is thought. How do we generate thoughts? How do we react to our thoughts? How do we create emotion? How do we create perspective? How do we create the results that we are creating in our life? So this is an amazing topic, and one that once we truly understand the nature of our thinking, we get access to a whole new range of mastery, a whole new range of tools in our toolkit of conscious professional human beings. So if you're wanting to take a deeper take a deeper look at your consciousness and develop a deeper understanding of how you do everything you do inside your reality, you're going to love tonight's episode, because I'm going to be unpacking this at a far deeper level than perhaps you've done before. So welcome. G'day, Tom. Good to have you here, mate. So tonight's topic, as I said, is thoughts. How do we hack our thinking? How do we hack our results in life? And this topic is, when we truly understand our thoughts, we gain access to hacking our entire reality, because our thoughts are the start of a very complex sequence of interactions inside the human being. But our thoughts are the starting point. The thought is the place where we can intercept and interrupt and transform all of our habits, all of our behavior, all of our choices, all of our decisions, all of our actions, and everything that we manifest in our life. So as we think, we become. Our thinking is the access to deeper levels of mastery of life. Yeah, I'm excited as well, Thomas. This is going to be a good episode. So first of all, let's start by looking at, well, what is a thought? What is a thought? Well, a thought is simply energy. Thought is simply formed energy. Think of it like a bundle of energy. Think of it like a bubble of energy that's kind of floating through the cosmos, through infinite intelligence. Thought is simply a form of energy. It's a packet of information. Whether you want to think of it as vibration, frequency, noughts and ones, binary, however you want to picture or imagine that information, it's just information that's being stored as energy. Now that is what a thought is. And that thought is neither good nor bad. It's neither right or wrong. It's just information. And that's the thing, is it's not good or bad. It's just information. It's just a packet of information. So that's the simplest way of describing and defining what a thought is. Because when we can really simplify this, we get a lot of power. So thought is just information. It's a form of energy. So this is, I just want to really simplify this. And all energy is neutral. All energy is simply vibration and frequency. It's either high vibration, high frequency, or low vibration, low frequency. That's all it is. And there is just a spectrum of energy. So, g'day Mike, good to have you here, mate. So, to put it really simply, thought is just energy. Now, it's neutral. Now, how do we tune into thinking? Well, think of the human being, think of ourselves as a little bit like an antenna, like a radio. And what we are doing is we are tuning into picking up on these thoughts. Now, imagine these thoughts like bubbles just floating past. They're like bubbles floating through our consciousness. They're like floating through. And at any moment in time, what we're actually really doing is we're actually latching onto one of these bubbles of information that's just floating along. Almost like the thoughts are, another great metaphor of thoughts are like they're clouds passing through the sky, where the sky is our consciousness and the cloud is a thought. And what we are doing is, when we are truly conscious, what we're now doing is we're just simply observing thoughts. And for those of you that have meditated before, and for those that haven't meditated before, I highly recommend exploring the powerful field of meditation, which is a practice of ultimately giving you awareness of your thinking. when you're in a deep meditative state, you can observe the thoughts. You can observe the thoughts like you're looking up at the sky and watching clouds pass through the sky. You can observe them. You can do what's called dissociate from your thoughts and just observe them. Oh, another one. There goes another one. There goes another one. Oh, interesting. So all of a sudden, our thoughts, they become something that we can observe rather than buying into them and making them real, because all that's happening when we buy into a thought is these thought forms are forms of energy that are floating through our consciousness. And what we'll do is we'll look at one and we'll grab it and we'll go, that's a thought. I'm going to grab that. And it's like grabbing a thought. And imagine these thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky, and it's like we're grabbing it. And it's like as soon as we grab that thought, what we do is it's like we put it on like a pair of these sunnies, these very stylish sunnies. And it's like, oh, I'm now viewing my reality through these lenses, and I've become the thought. So we now have become the thought. We have merged with the thought. It has now become us. We have identified with the thought as being us. So we've taken a neutral packet of information, packet of energy that's just floating through the cosmos, floating through our consciousness, and now we've latched onto it and put these glasses on, and now we are viewing our reality. We are now creating our awareness through the lens of this thought. So it's like we've put it on, and we are now have become the identity of the thought. It's like, I am now this thought. Oh. Now we are limited by the thought or expanded by the thought. We are elevated or diminished by that thought, depending on the frequency and vibration of the thought. So interesting to know that we are not our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are just simply packets of information, packets of energy that we are tuning into. Now, where this becomes really valuable is, I'm going to take these off so you just get the idea. But that thought process is what we're actually doing. That's what we're doing in every moment. We are reaching out, grabbing a thought, and we're putting on the sunnies. We are putting on the glasses. Now, a lot of this process is happening unconsciously. And this is where the challenge lies, as if we're wanting to be a professional, highly conscious human being. What we've got to realize is that we have 70,000 thoughts per day. We have about 70,000 thoughts per day. That's about 1 every 2 seconds. And you've heard me talk about this before. But what's the significance of this? Well, if you can become aware, and try this on as a bit of a thought experiment, if you can become aware of all 70,000 thoughts, then what you're doing is, it's like before you put those sunnies on, what it's doing is you're actually going, oh, okay, I'm observing this thought that's floating by. Okay, interesting. I'm going to observe that. And then now that I can observe it, instead of me putting the sunglasses on and now becoming the thought, I can just now observe the thought as a thought. Interesting. It's just a packet of information. I now have the choice to decide, do I want to become that thought? Do I want to let my whole awareness be immersed and merge into becoming that thought? That's now a choice. That's a choice point that we now get access to once we can observe the thought. But if we're in a trance of unconsciousness, then there will just be thought after thought after thought that's just coming in, and we're just putting another thought set of glasses on, but we're doing all this unconsciously. So we've now become another thought. And all of a sudden, before we know it, we've just immersed in thought after thought after thought without actually consciously choosing our thoughts. And then we wonder why we either haven't got anything done in the day, or we haven't been feeling the best, wonder why we're not feeling motivated or inspired or happy. And the reason is because a lot of these thoughts that we've been having, we haven't consciously chosen them. We have just adopted them unconsciously, automatically. Now, the thing about this thing, what happens in this process of when we associate into a thought, what then happens is we take that thought and we now put it on. But now what happens is we are now going to evoke an emotion because we've now put on that thought. We've now immersed and associated into the thought. So we are now going to feel a particular emotion depending on how we relate to that thought. If we love the thought, if we think that's a great thought, we put it on, and now you're viewing your reality through the lens of that's a great thought, life's great, life's amazing, I feel beautiful, I feel fantastic, this is happy. But what if you're putting on a thought that you're resistant to? What if there's a thought that you don't like? Well, you put on a different thought, oh, it's like, gee, my world is horrible now. I mean, a thought that's resistant. So you might be putting on a thought which is, I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. And if you're putting on that thought, well, you're going to view your reality through a whole series of emotions that don't feel particularly good. Maybe shame, embarrassment, sadness, right? Resentment, depression, all sorts of things. So the lenses that you are wearing to perceive your reality are being determined by the thought that you associate into, the thought that you become. So we need to be aware that we are not our thoughts, but what we're doing unconsciously is we're grabbing that thought and we're putting it on. And we're putting on the thought glasses. Hey, Shemaine, good to have you back. We're putting on these glasses and it's now tinting. Like as I'm looking at you now, I can see a red tint. So the thought that I'm choosing to think now is now determining my reality and my emotion. So our thoughts directly create our feelings. Our thoughts directly create our feelings. So the thoughts now lead to the feeling by us embracing and embodying that thought. So what's now taking place is that thought was just a neutral packet of information. It was just a bundle of energy floating by. And now we have become it. We have become the thought. So we have now forgotten who and what we are. We are now the thought. Interesting to know. We have now bought into the illusion that we are now our thinking. We are the thought, instead of being able to observe the thought as separate to self. So you might be saying, okay, great. We now know that, okay, we are not our thoughts. We now know that we have 70,000 of them per day. We know that when we embrace a thought and when we embody it and when we associate into it, we evoke a feeling. Okay, great. So how does this help us? Well, the key thing to realize here is that all thoughts are neutral. Now, when we react to a thought, that's when the problem comes up. As a human being, the only problem that we can ever create for ourselves is us unconsciously reacting or consciously reacting with a sense of fear to a thought. That's all that's ever happening, because there's just neutral thought after thought, just like the clouds passing through the sky. The thoughts are just bubbles of energy, bubbles of information passing through our consciousness. And then what we will do is every now and then when we see a thought that we don't like, we'll go, that thought, I don't like you. All right? So what it's doing is we're saying, there's a thought that's floating along, that one, you, I don't like you. I don't like that thought. Now what we're doing is we're judging the thought. We're diminishing the thought. We're blaming the thought. We're in resistance to that thought. And so what now happens is there is a resistance to a neutral piece of information. It's just noughts and ones. It's just a form of energy. It's frequency and vibration. It's an energy, bubble of energy. And now we're in resistance to that thought. That's all we are doing. We're either in acceptance of a thought or loving the thought, like, great, this is an amazing thought. For example, the thought of, I am worthy or I'm good enough. We love that thought. That's a great thought. Bring that in closer to me. I want to put that on. So what we're now doing is we're seeing the thought of, I am worthy or I am good enough. It's like that thought's running, I'm going to grab that one. I love that one. I'm going to put that one. Great, I feel amazing. My reality is wonderful. But what about the thought of, I'm not worthy? If we put that thought on, oh, horrible, this world sucks, put it back. That's what's going on. So we're reacting to our thinking. We are reacting to our thoughts. We're afraid of our thoughts. It's like we are running from our thoughts. If we're in resistance to our thinking, hey Sue, hey Ross, good to have you here. If we are running from our thinking, then what's taking place is we're just in reaction mode. We're like, that thought's horrible. Well, that thought is just neutral. It's just information. But somewhere along the line, through our memories, through our experiences, through our emotions, we have now developed a resistance to taking in that information. And that's where the key to consciousness lies. That's where the key to hacking your reality lies, is recognizing what are the thoughts that you are resistant to. Because if you can identify what the thoughts are that you're resistant to, you can now observe them as they're coming up for you. And you go, I'm resistant to that thought. Because you know that ultimately those thoughts are just neutral. They are just information. So for us to react to a thought, like for example here, the thought of, I'm not worthy. And the way that I figured this out was I thought about the thought, what if I wasn't worthy? Oh, that's a horrible thought. Oh, that would make me feel horrible. Clearly I'm in resistance to that thought. Think about it now for you right now. Think about the thought of, what if you're not worthy? What if you're not good enough? What if you failed? Right? Think about all these thoughts. If that was actually true, that thought, right? When you think if something's true, what you're doing is it's like you're taking the thought and you're putting it on as if it's true. Oh, what if it's true? So if you're in resistance to a thought, it means you're afraid of the thought. It means you've just developed a conditioned belief system or a set of perspectives such that you are running from that thought. So it's like running from a barking dog that's chasing you. You're like running away from that thought. I want to get away from it. It's horrible. Get me away from it. Get me away from it. The way to solve this problem is not to avoid the thought. And this is the thing, is a lot of people try to deal with the thought of not being worthy or not being good enough or not being successful or not being intelligent. The way they try and deal with it is to run from the thought. They try and avoid that thought because it's uncomfortable. They run away from it to try and never have that thought pop into their consciousness because it's too uncomfortable to deal with. So what we do is we spend our whole life working hard or going to the gym or getting a promotion or doing our whole, working really hard, a lot of times driven by fear to avoid the thought of that coming true. So what we're now doing is we're just running from that barking dog forever, but that dog's never going to stop chasing us. So what we need to be aware of is we need to be aware that we are running from our thoughts. We're afraid of our thoughts. That's all a fear is. A fear is just simply resistance to a thought being inside our consciousness. That's all it is. All we are ever experiencing is our own thinking. All we are ever experiencing at any moment in time is our own thinking. I'll let that sink in. The only thing that you can ever experience is your own thinking. And so, knowing that all thoughts are neutral, we just need to be aware of which of those thoughts we are in reaction to. Which of those neutral thoughts I've decided some of them I like, some of them I don't like. The ones that I don't like, I'm just going to run from them. I'm going to run for the hills. I'm just going to keep running from them. The way to solve this problem is not to keep running from the thoughts. The way to solve this problem is not to keep avoiding the thoughts, because the thoughts will just keep chasing you. The way to solve this problem is, instead of running from the barking dog, turn around and run back at the barking dog, i.e. turn back into the negative thought that we're running from, and just face it, experience it. Turn around and go, you know what? I'm not going to keep running from this dog. I'm just going to turn around. I'm going to bark at it. The metaphor here is analogous to, well, you've got to feel that thought. You have to face that thought, because that thought is not going to hurt you. When you realize that you can think a thought, and yes, when you think it and feel it, what you're now doing is you're taking that thought and you're feeling it. It's not going to feel comfortable the first time that you feel into that thought. When I did this for the first time, when I felt into the thought of, let's just try this out, I'm not worthy. When you think about that, it doesn't feel very good. But this activity is a little bit like skydiving. For those of you that have ever done skydiving or bungee jumping or public speaking or anything that you've ever faced your fears in before, the way that this process works is, after you face your fear or after you have an experience, you realize, it's not so bad. What's the fuss about? Well, the same thing takes place with your thinking. After a while, if you think a thought, you go through the resistance, you feel a negative emotion, and after a while you teach yourself that thought, it's not so bad. It doesn't actually mean anything, it's just a thought. And so you feel it and you desensitize it, you devalue it, and all of a sudden that thought no longer has any power over you, because you've just embraced it, and you've kind of like bungee jumping, you've jumped off the edge of the platform, and it's scary for the first half a second, but after that it's fun. You've got a smile and you're laughing and it's exhilarating. Well, the same thing happens with your thoughts, with your darkest thoughts. When you feel into the thoughts that you've been running from the most, or been most fearful of the most, you devalue them. You realize that you can handle them, and they're inherently just packets of information that you eventually sit with long enough. You welcome that thought, that feeling and that emotion. You feel the emotion, and it's not comfortable at first, but ultimately you come out the other side and you actually go, you know what? I can handle that thought, even if that thought was to come true. The worst case scenario, I can actually handle everything that could possibly come my way. So this process is desensitizing and devaluing any of the resistance that we have to the thinking. It's devaluing the resistance that we have to the thinking. Hey, Daddy, good to have you here, my brother. So this process is really hacking our consciousness at one of the deepest levels we possibly can, which is completely devaluing any resistance to any of the thoughts that we've got. So the major clue here is if there's ever any thought you're having that you're in resistance to, that you're uncomfortable around, well, the answer is not to keep running from it or trying to prevent it from happening. It's a little bit counterintuitive. The answer is to actually, as I said, turn around and run instead of the storm chasing you, run back into the eye of the storm and surrender and let the storm pass over you and realize that you can handle anything. So here's the thing is you've got to get used to stop running from your thinking and actually face the thought head on and sit in it, feel it to the point where you realize that you can survive any thought. And not only that, but all thoughts are ultimately neutral and they're harmless. Thoughts are harmless. And I was thinking about this the other day. If you look at what actually goes on inside our mind, hey Daddy, hey legend, when you look at what goes on inside your mind, if you ever stop short of taking action, then you can ask yourself, oh, what stopped me? And the answer, the only thing that ever stops us is your thought. Think about it. The only thing that ever stops you is a thought. Oh, well, I was going to do that, but what stopped you? Oh, well, I had a thought. And thoughts are harmless. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're packets of information. They're packets of energy. So we've got to look at, well, hang on, what's actually taking place inside my consciousness so that I have resistance to my thoughts? And so now the work becomes not trying to avoid the thoughts or not trying to change the external reality to try and avoid the thoughts in the first place. What you do is you now go to the source of your consciousness and go, okay, I'm going to solve the problem internally inside me, which is within my control. And I can devalue and desensitize and completely strip out any meaning from that thought. So I can now completely hack my consciousness from the inside out without needing to change the external world. So when I figured this out, it's like I hacked the next level of consciousness. And since then, it's like I've been fearless. I don't have any fears anymore because I've realized that I don't need to run from the external world anymore. I'm not running from fears. I'm not running from thoughts. I just do this little process that I've developed and I've transformed every single one of my fears completely. I've just hacked them all from the inside out by shifting my consciousness. And this is one of the most powerful things I've ever discovered in my whole entire life. And so I'm excited to share it with you because when you understand this process from the inside out, all of your consciousness, all of your results, everything in your life completely transforms because you realized the hack to consciousness, which is your thoughts. All you're ever experiencing is your thinking. All you are ever experiencing is a reaction to your thinking. And you can either respond to your thinking or react to your thinking. You can either get to a place where you accept all of your thoughts and they're just neutral, no big deal. And for me now, I have the thought, what if I'm not worthy? And for me, because I've felt into that thought and because I've been through these processes that I've developed for myself, I now have the thought of, well, what if I'm not worthy? And I'm like, who cares if I'm not worthy? Who cares if I'm not worthy? It doesn't matter. It's a thought. It doesn't matter. There is no value on that thought anymore. It's just neutral. So here's the thing is I don't need to work and strive hard and try and pretend to be anything that I'm not anymore because if I'm not worthy, I don't care. It has no value anymore. There's no significance to that piece of information anymore. It's just a form of energy. I'm not giving that thought of I'm not worthy, I'm not giving it any value. I'm just like, well, it's just an packet of information. I don't have to buy into it. I don't have to buy into that thought and put it on like these glasses. I don't have to put it on and now become that thought. There's now no resistance to it. So I can now observe it for what it is, which is just information and just data, just noughts and ones, just frequency and vibration. So I trust this has given a greater understanding of, well, how we actually react to thought, how we're responding to thinking. And if we are in reaction to our thinking, well, we're self-sabotaging ourselves. If we are negatively reacting, if we are in resistance to a thought, well, we've got to get curious. How did I create resistance to that thought? I'm resistant to a thought. What stopped you? A thought. Interesting. So these thoughts, they're pretty powerful. These thoughts, if we don't understand them, if we don't come up with a deeper awareness of consciousness around these thoughts, well, we're going to be in resistance to them. Now, that resistance shows up as all sorts of negative emotions. For example, guilt or shame or sadness, tension. So at the end of the day, the simplest way of really approaching this is recognizing you don't have to change your external reality to avoid negative emotions. You just have to change the resistance that you have internally to the thought, and the emotion goes away. And that's what I've been playing around with. That's what I've been experimenting with. And this is the next level of coaching. This is the next level of personal development. This is the next level of consciousness, when you can see all thoughts as neutral, all thoughts as just forms of information and energy. It's like, for those that have seen the movie The Matrix, when Neo eventually starts to see the noughts and the ones and the code, and literally like he sees the noughts and the ones down the walls, and he starts to hack his reality. Well, this is the process that is available to every single one of you, which is realizing that every thought that enters your consciousness is simply energy. It's simply noughts and ones. It's information. Now, what you need to do is you also need to develop the skill set to be able to observe that information, to be able to observe it, so that you can actually diagnose or be aware of, oh, I'm actually having a thought right now. And then once you can observe that thought, you can observe it before you decide to put on the thought and experience it. So you can actually go, interesting, that thought there, do I want to associate and become that thought? Or do I just want to observe it? What do I like to do? No, I'm just going to let that one go. What about this one? What about that thought? Do I like that thought? Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to hold on to that. It's a resourceful one. That's great. Let's explore that. I like that thought. Let's put that one and let's take that for a drive. Oh, this was a good thought. I'm feeling good now. After all, you go, great, I'm done with this thought. I'm going to take this thought off and put it down. I can look for another one. Oh, that's a good one. Let's try that one. Oh, that one doesn't feel. Oh, that one's not good. Oh, let's take that one off. So when we become aware of our thinking, when we have an advanced level of present state awareness, and present state awareness is the practice of being aware of your thinking. It's being present in the moment to what's taking place inside your awareness. When you cultivate that skill of present state awareness, you are now aware of the lenses, the thoughts that you're wearing at each and every moment. You can go, do I like these lenses? Is this thought, is it serving me or not? Do I want to wear it or not wear it? That is the skill that present state awareness, or that's the benefit that present state awareness gives you. Now, I've spoken about this before, but things like meditation, I'm a big meditator. I've got lots of meditative practices and connection processes and soul connection processes and alarms that go off on my phone during the day to keep me in a state of present state awareness. Because when you're in this present state awareness, you are aware of your thinking, and you can know if we are buying into that thought or whether we're just like letting it pass by neutrally. So this is a powerful topic, and it's incredibly exciting when you get this understanding, when you have this advanced level of being able to observe your thinking and then purge the resistance to the thoughts. This gives you a higher level of consciousness to be able to override all of your problems, because instead of needing to deal with the problem of the external problem, you can now solve it on the inside. The problem no longer becomes a problem by you just shifting your consciousness, by shifting your awareness, and you just neutralize the problem on the inside. So instead of trying to go to work mending the external world or changing circumstances or trying to work harder to get more money or to do this or to look good, you can just recognize the thought you're in resistance to, and you neutralize the thought, and the problem disappears. So it's an inside-out hack. It's one of the most powerful consciousness hacks that I have ever discovered, and since I've been using this process, it almost feels like I've become limitless, become fearless, and this is a powerful process that just works. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight on Transformation Tuesday. I'm glad it's resonating, Mike. This is one of the most important practices that I believe anyone can ever do, and this relates back to meditation. By doing daily meditation processes, you become more and more aware of your thinking, which means you can observe the thought before you associate into it, before you buy into it. And so what we do is when we're buying into that thought, it's like it becomes more real than what it is. When we're buying into a thought, it's like we make the thought more real than what it actually is. So instead of it being a packet of information and observing it floating past us, we're now absorbing it, we're now becoming it, we're identifying with it. And that's where the suffering begins, when we're identifying with a thought that's not serving us. And it could be half an hour or a day goes by, and we've been associating into that thought and that emotion for a whole day and looking at our whole day through this thought because we've become it. And we might have been suffering for a whole day in the thought of, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, right? But we're kind of half resisting it. If you fully immerse into a thought and a feeling, and you're fully willing to feel that emotion all the way through to resolve it at the deepest level, what you'll eventually it's like going through a dark tunnel, and you'll eventually come out the other side and you'll go, oh, I've actually fully welcomed and observed and felt that thought and that emotion. And it's actually not that bad. It's now neutralized it. It's nullified it. It's devalued it. It's stripped away any significance of that thought having any meaning, because you've been willing to, you've had the courage to sit with it and fully feel it. By fully feeling a thought and an emotion, it lets you process it. It lets your unconscious mind realize that you can handle that experience, and you're able to absorb the information that's pouring through in that experience, and you naturally heal your unconscious mind in that process by sitting in the emotion. The body has a natural tendency to heal itself if you allow yourself to sit in the emotion long enough and fully immerse in it, because you're getting the download, you're getting the information that the emotion is there to give you. All emotions are action signals. All emotions are there to give you insight and information and a level of trust that you can handle whatever's taking place in your reality. So, as I said, meditation is one way you can improve your skill set to be able to observe the thinking. Journaling is another powerful way. Just journaling what were your experiences, what were your thoughts during the day, what were your triggers, what were the emotions you experienced, those sorts of things. And obviously coaching is another powerful way. Actually being coached by someone, having a coach work through a process like this with you and help you come out on the other side with a grander level of awareness of self, of how you do your own reality, and help you pick apart and identify the negative emotions and the thought patterns that you've been thinking that might have been one of those 70,000 thoughts you've had in a day, but maybe we're unconscious of them. So when you can become conscious of, if you become conscious of all 70,000 thoughts in a day, you're at a place of getting pretty close to enlightenment. Right? That's the way to think about it, is if you can observe all 70,000 thoughts and be aware of them as just thoughts passing through your mind, in very, very empowering place to be. Now, even if you can only observe one of them, that's a start. And that's the process that I encourage you to begin with, is just start observing random thoughts here and there. What was that one? What was that? What was that one? What's the thought I'm having right now? And if you're in a state of, what's the thought I'm having right now? What thought am I having right now? It becomes like a Buddhist monk who's just in a constant state of meditation. Every breath, they're in a state of meditation. They're in a state of consciousness. They're in a state of awareness. What thought am I having now? What thought am I having now? Very, very powerful place to be in. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone gets to the level of complete enlightenment and complete 100% awareness of every single moment of every single day. I would say that's a benchmark to aim for. I'm not sure that's the benchmark I'm aiming for myself. I'm not sure if I'll ever get there, but that's the benchmark that I'm striving for in terms of the pursuit of level of conscious development I'm looking to create for myself. So I think this is a really powerful way of helping us become even more conscious of ourselves. So I'm going to leave it there for tonight, guys, because I know that this is, this is a huge topic. I could spend 5 days just talking about thoughts and feelings and emotions, but I just want to give you this snippet today to understand just how we do our thinking and just how all thoughts are neutral. And if we're in reaction to the thoughts, well, that's on us. We're just simply reacting to a thought. We are judging a thought. Interesting. Contemplate that, reflect on it, and I'd love to hear your comments, love to hear your insights, your learnings. Let me know how you found it. This is one of the most powerful concepts that I now teach, and this is a game changer to hack your reality at one of the deepest levels that exists at the source code level. So if this resonates with you, you'll love what I've got coming up. I've got Project Limitless starting. For those of you that haven't yet enrolled or haven't yet reached out, Project Limitless is starting this week. So we're creating the group tomorrow. So we're going to start a whole week of pre-learning, and then we've got our first class starting in a week's time. So for those that haven't yet jumped in, you've still got a week to jump in. There's been a heap of interest. There's been a heap of people sending me messages. So if you really want to take your level of consciousness, if you want to take your leadership, your emotional intelligence, your productivity, and your sense of mission and purpose, then this is going to be a powerful program. It's going to be held over 12 weeks. And I know, Mike, you're already in there set to go. I'm looking forward to sharing the best of what I've got with you guys. This is going to be a powerful opportunity for purpose-driven business people, entrepreneurs, business owners, just anyone who's looking to tap into the greatest, most authentic version of themselves, to hack their reality from the inside out by elevating their consciousness to the highest level they possibly can. So that, as I said, you're more productive, you're getting more done, you have a higher level of awareness, of consciousness, of emotional and natural emotional intelligence and intuition, ability to make decisions because you're now tuned in to a higher level of consciousness. You're operating at a higher frequency. This is what it's going to give you. So for those that are interested, please reach out. This is going to be a very, very powerful program, and I'm excited to deliver it. Thank you, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you again for tuning in. As always, lots of love, guys. Happy Transformation Tuesday. I'll see you all again very next week. And for those in Project Limitless, get ready for a powerful 12-week program where we're going to dive deep. See you, Mike. See you guys. Bye for now.